So then, it's our 13th man here with James Fawcett, one of my followers on Twitter and someone that I mutually follow back to. We've been chatting over Twitter for the last couple of days regarding a few different bits and pieces, from Benjamin Mendy all the way through to Pep's philosophy and style, and who we replaced Leroy Sane with. So, James, happy to have you on me tonight, mate, and we can debate and chat about a few different points on tonight's vid.
Yeah, sounds good. Looking forward to it. Hopefully we can get a good bit of fun like with that on Twitter.
Indeed. No, we've had a good couple of chats, haven't we? And it's good to be having a chat with somebody that there's a lot of people on Twitter that know what they're talking about, but the odd person you get giving you a bit of jip and stuff. But it's nice to have been able to talk to you about different things and know that I'm on the same page with you about some stuff. So no better place to start then than Benjamin Mendy. We'll move on to Sane later on, but Benjamin Mendy, somebody that comes in for a lot of criticism from City fans, primarily down to the fact that he defensively looks pretty suspect at times. What's your opinion on Mendy in terms of what you've seen over the last couple of years, obviously including the injuries that he's had and taking them into account?
Yeah, a bit similar, to be brutally honest. The first time I came across him was playing for Monaco in the Champions League. Can't recall off the top of my head the fixture. It was knockout stages. We played him and he was just turning up down the left-hand side. And the thing that really attracted me to your Twitter page, Harlan, was there's not too many of us out there that actually believe he's a good player. I'm a big fan of him as well. Defensively, he's not all that solid, but going forward, when he's fit and strong, he's an absolute handful. He's hard to handle. I think it was epitomised on Newcastle a couple of nights ago that his delivery, his final ball into the box, can be frightening. And I'm convinced if Sergio was playing, he would have got on the end of 4 or 5 loose balls in. But I'm a massive fan of him, and I think once he gets fit and firing again, he's only going to get better.
Yeah, with regards to that, James, obviously a lot of the time when players like Benjamin Mendy are whipping balls into the box that are very good, if there's nobody there to finish them off, they're never going to get the credit they deserve for the ball into the box. I find sometimes, for example, imagine Kevin De Bruyne's assists sometimes that obviously wouldn't be assists had no one put them in the back of the net. Not have been, put into the back of the net. How many of them would actually have been appreciated as much as they are with them actually being registered assists? So it often makes you wonder sometimes that, Angelino, for example, last year in the FA Cup not the FA Cup, the League Cup, I think it might have been against Southampton. He was whipping balls into the box left, right and centre, and there was only maybe 2 solid balls that actually reached a man. The other 12 crosses that he put in that night were wonderful crosses, but because they weren't to the man and intercepted by the opponent, they never got the credit they deserved. Do you find sometimes that a player gets given less credit because nobody necessarily puts it into the back of the net?
100%. You know a good delivery when you see one, and not all the time does someone get on the end of it. A lot of times they probably aim for an area more than a player. I'm hoping someone can get across the front post or make a good run towards the centre of the box. But yeah, I totally agree that a lot of times people believe they're bad crosses because they don't go direct to someone. But at the end of the day, the guys playing up front have to make the right runs as well and anticipate where it's going.
Yeah, indeed. No, well, to obviously talk about Benjamin Mendy and what he was doing at Monaco. Obviously, he was playing in a 3-5-2, a 3-4-1-2, a 3-4-2-1, depending on what the gaffer decided to play him in there. Obviously, Sidibe, his French teammate, obviously playing on the right-hand side that night. I'm sure you remember how good he was that night as well. Yeah. With their fullbacks playing a lot higher than even their wide men at times in that game and really give us an hard time. How we won that game 5-3 with the way they played was absolutely unbelievable. But the way they had him playing was primarily focusing on going forward, attacking and trying to hurt the opposition. Not too much focus on his defensive game. And obviously, since we've lost Vincent Kompany and with the John Stones injuries over the years and the Laporte injuries as well, we've been forced to play a back 4 and incorporate him, Walker and Cancelo into that. And that, for me, isn't where they're most comfortable. Do you agree?
Definitely, 100% agree. And I think you've hit the nail on the head. I think injuries have played a major part in what formation Pep has had to play. Because when he first came, I was convinced it was going to be a back 3, especially with the personnel we have. Just touch on John Stone slightly. I know we're on many, but he gets a lot of unfair criticism. But as a ball-playing centre-back, he's incredible. The way he can step into the centre midfield with a ball and play on. But yeah, I totally agree that when the players are firing and fit, the predominant Mendy's played in a back 3. Cancelo's all played in Juventus at a back 3. So I think it'll only get better. And you touched on it slightly about the tactical awareness. You start with back 3, it can become any formation on the day. So you don't necessarily have to stick to that format. But no, totally agree. And I was Facebook actually on one of the pages. I must tag in it to let you have a read.
Yeah, I'll have a read, yeah.
Some of the stick that Mendy was getting, and I was defending him and getting plenty of stick back myself for defending him. But I really like him, and he's not that old either, 24, 25, if I'm right, maybe.
Yeah.
So there's no point. You got to give him time too. We're in no rush to get rid of him at all, in my opinion, and he's only going to get better.
It's important you said that, James. There's a lot of people don't. What do you mean? A lot of people don't think outside the box and think, what if this player played here? Would that bring the best out of him? Why is he not playing so well there? Is it because he's not a left back? All them kinds of things get forgotten about, and it's strictly just that player is poor. And there's so many different variables as to why that player might not be playing at full capacity and why they might not be playing at their best. And I think that, if we were to see a 3-5-2 or a 3-4-1-2 or a 3-4-2-1, where Mendy, Cancelo and Walker could focus on going forward, a bit like Richards did under Mancini then all them years ago, when he used to say that Mancini used to tell him not to cross the halfway line at times because of how much on the front foot we were. I think we'll see the best out of all three of our fullbacks and another one if we do bring him in.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think what hasn't helped is you've got Fabian Delph, and as you've touched on, Zinchenko kind of came in whenever he got injured, and we were, and that's when we were in a good place. You had Laporte fit, Company fit, John Stones fit. So having one of those guys drop into a back four at the time and play, it didn't really affect us, and we were always on the front foot. So you're seeing the best of their attacking side, not their defensive. And now, Company's a massive blow, of course. Then losing Laporte, as we did very early on. Yeah. It's kind of all played in a big stance of a build-up, and a negative side of it, as in Mendy's, so-called poor side of his game, such to speak, is what's being shown. But I think it's a collective overall that we've lost so many players during that small period.
Well, there's a lot of people worrying, James, about how you're going to fit certain players into the three at the back, four in midfield, two wing forwards or inside forwards and a striker, or three up top with two wingers and a forward. People are wondering how we're going to incorporate all these players in. Now, like you say, it's so fluid that Pep could change it from a 3-4-1-2 to a 3-4-2-1 within the click of a finger, or he could change it to a 3-4-3 and have two wide men and a centre forward or a striker in there. So there's no way that he wouldn't, be thinking that Mahrez, Sterling, Bernardo Silva would be able to be incorporated into that. I had one guy on my Twitter the other day who's quite a level-headed guy, was actually saying, yeah, but how do we, why would we change the whole formation and system and style for one or two players, Cancelo and Mendy and Walker? Well, you're not really. You're changing it for the benefit of the team to get the best out of them, which would in turn get the best out of other players that would be more than good enough to play in them systems and styles. Yeah,
100%. Just exactly what you're touching on, the styles and the systems. For talk's sake, we played Newcastle the other evening. They basically on paper they were playing a 3-5 or a 3-5-2, but realistically it becomes a 5 at the back because they don't get out. They get pushed that far back. But in our point of view, where our players are exceptional, it changes. And when you play that system, if someone's only playing one up front and you have a 4 at the back, for example, your fullbacks are already pushed on anyway, so you've effectively put 5 in your midfield with the wing backs. So I don't see any major issues with changing it, and it's not to accommodate one or two players. As you said, it's a collective.
Well, Pep was doing that at the start, wasn't he? When he first came, yeah. Mendy and Walker actually played in a 3-5-2 with a 5-3-2 when defending. And it looked absolutely unbelievable. And if you remember, James, Mendy had, I think it was 6 or 7 assists in the opening 10 or 12 games of the season. So it's clearly proven that when playing in a position where he believes he can be at his best, you're going to get the results and the end product from him. And, listen, you're going to need him to defend a bit, but it's going to be more covering than it is going to be solely his responsibility, which I think will do him, Cancelo, Walker, and maybe another fullback if we bring one in, a lot of good. And the back three will be more confident then, with the players they've got either side of them as well.
100%. The mistake that happened the other night, it's not like it was an error of judgment that can be fixed. It was a genuine mistake where he anticipated the ball going backwards, and I think it was Fernandinho, am I right in saying? kind of
Gundogan, I think it
pulled.
might. What did you mean the mistake at Chelsea?
Yeah, Gundogan. It was
Yeah,
Gundogan.
Gundogan.
Sorry, yeah. And Gundogan had basically asked him to stop and stay where he was, but things like that can be worked on. It's maybe also a lack of playing time together because Mendy's been out injured for so long. But you know, and one-on-one, 1v1 defending, it can be worked on too. I'm a big believer that the mistakes that are in his game at the moment can be rectified quite easily.
Yeah, and we touched on this with Ian. I think it might have been a year ago now that we don't have to defend much anymore.
No.
We don't have to defend much anymore because of the way we play, obviously, on the front foot and how we approach games and the fact that we're so dominant in matches. So it's almost as if sometimes our players forget how to defend, and that's why you'll see against sides like Chelsea that will hit us on the counter with a lot more quality than, say, no offence to Bournemouth, but a Bournemouth, that we will be punished for them errors, as small as they may be. We will be punished for them smaller as defensively, that we don't necessarily have to overly work on because we are such a front foot side.
Yeah, I totally agree. Definitely. Yeah.
So,
excuse me.
That's Benjamin Mendy. Cancelo summed up, and obviously Walker too. Moving on then, James. It might seem a bit random that we're going to jump straight to Leroy Sane, but he is another player that we are now either going to have to replace or replace directly with either a defender or another left winger. Versatile left winger, someone that could play on the right, somebody that could play down the middle as well. Pep loves versatile players, doesn't just limit them to one position, Who would you replace Leroy Sane with before I give my top three that I think could replace him that have got Premier League experience?
The one basically we were debating about yesterday and this morning again is mine was going to be Jack Grealish. We had a wee debate on the price and etc. what he can do, but I just believe he'll fit our mould perfectly. His ball retention is incredible. I don't actually know what the stats are. We'd love to find them out, but he does not give the ball away whatsoever. And that's in a poor Aston Villa team. So my theory on it is when he's exceptional players around him, he's only going to be better. I'm a big fan of Jack Grealish. I think he's good. But yeah, I would like to see maybe only one player come in because I don't want to see Phil Foden get pushed aside at all. I think he's to get a lot of game time still.
Yeah, it is key that. No, I agree 100%. You don't want to bring somebody in that's too versatile, so that they would then be slotted into the middle of the park and Foden would be pushed back. You don't want to put him further down the pecking order. But I think what you pointed out with Grealish is exactly what we were agreeing on yesterday. We had some common ground on him. The fact that he's such a fantastic dribbler, he's quick as well. I think you mentioned that he loves to play the ball between the lines. He's a very creative player. And he's the most fouled player in the league now that Hazard's gone to Spain. So it shows you that, players don't like playing against Jack Grealish, and he'll win you free kicks, which De Bruyne will undoubtedly then swallow up and convert. And he's a tricky guy. A lot of people don't like Grealish because of previous exploits with regards to going down a bit too easy or the pretty boy kind of haircut and all that. But when you take all that out of the equation and you look at the actual player and the actual man, he's an exceptional football player and somebody that I think would bring a lot to City. Now, a lot of fans are saying, well, I don't think he's good enough. He's played at Villa. He might have got too used to playing around poorer players. I don't think he's good enough for City. Well, my opinion is what yours is, James, that with better players around you, how are you going to become any worse?
No, it's only going to improve you. It has to. To be honest, I've watched Aston Villa plenty this season, and I just think that the pocket that David Silva finds for us, Jack finds it a lot for Villa. And that ball, the majority of footballers can see the ball and try to play in between the lines, but Jack really, he just delivers game after game. We had a wee debate towards the fee for him, of course, if they stay up or if they get relegated. But I just think it'll be a very shrewd investment from us, or whoever makes the bid. I just think his time at Aston Villa is up and he is going to move, and hopefully it's the City, to be honest.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, obviously, to touch on that for the people that are going to watch this that didn't get to see our tweets because either they don't follow us yet or they've not managed to get the retweet that somebody retweeted, for example. We were talking Villa stay up, you're talking 50, 60 million. That was I asked you for your valuation of him. He's definitely a 56, 60 million pound player with potential value that could skyrocket.
Yeah.
Now, we've been known to, not pay over the odds for players and not pay a fee that we don't deem realistic for where that team is or if that team's got other players to replace them and don't really necessarily need that amount of money. Now, with Grealish, we would be looking at around £30 million realistic, I think, for a player that's just been relegated. Now, that doesn't take anything from him as a player, but at the end of the day, why would you pay a team 60 million for a player that's gone down with you when you know you could get him for a bit less? And that's not to say we take advantage of Aston Villa. I just think that it'd be cheeky of Villa to ask for much more than between 30 and 40 million, in my opinion.
No, I totally agree. I actually misread your tweet yesterday whenever I was replying, and I assumed that Villa had stayed up on my valuation, what I believe he could be worth. But no, definitely, if Villa go down at half the value, it's just, it's business. That's what happens in football and any sport in general. And totally agree that the value of them will become half. You also do pay a slight premium on an English player, especially a good English player. So we would probably obviously be trying to take as much as they can, but I think 30 million is very realistic if they get relegated.
And the profit that we make on Grealish if we got him for 30 million, how much profit do you reckon? I mean, we'd not be looking to sell him anytime soon. If we were to sign him now, we'd be looking to keep hold of him for at least a full contract of 6 years or something, for example. How much profit do you reckon you can make on a player like Grealish with the age he's at and the talent he's got?
Well, I would just kind of compare it to the likes of Raheem Sterling, where we've paid around 50 million for him, and now if you sell him, goodness, you wouldn't be letting him go for anything less than 150. Not saying Jack Grealish should get to that, but at 30 million, 30, even if you push it to 40, and he plays well, his valuation's only going to rise.
Indeed. Now, obviously, I put a top three on Twitter yesterday. I'm not sure if you saw that, Grealish being one of them. I also sit Wilf Zaha, still 26-year-old. Obviously, went to United in 2012, didn't quite work out. Somebody that always gives us a bit of a nightmare when we play against him for Palace. Obviously, I had that little rivalry with Walker at Selhurst a couple of years ago where he had Walker on toast for half a game and then Walker got him back in the second half. Gets a lot of criticism like Grealish for going down a bit too easily. Gets called a bit of a diving merchant and whatnot. I just think that comes with the style of player that he is and the type of player he is. The fact that he's tricky and he draws fouls and if he feels contact, he goes down. But I'm sure that every player, given that opportunity to go down in football, thinks about it. Do you know what I mean? So Zaha would be another one of mine. And the lad at Newcastle, Alan Saint-Maximin, a player that was at Nice the other year, was linked with a lot of top four clubs like another player, Seri, who went to Fulham in the end from Nice. More than capable of going to a top four club, but decided to take the plunge and go to Newcastle. What would you say about Zaha and Saint-Maximin from what you've seen of them?
Well, basically, if you're looking talent now that can come in and do, doesn't need to improve at all, would be Zaha. But Saint-Maximin at Newcastle has, it's complete raw talent. You can just see his pace the other evening. He's absolutely frightening, but he just needs a lot of work. I think he's very similar to Adama Traore at Wolves. He's improved a lot this season too, and I think the other guy in question could do the exact same. But if you're looking, a straight up player that can work now, Zaha would be the option. Or if you're looking someone with a bit of potential, you would go for the plan B. But both of them they're exceptional. And to be honest, if we brought either of the three that we spoke about in, I wouldn't be too disappointed. So I wouldn't.
All three of them have got flair, which is, I think, something that we've got bits of in our squad, but we've not really got that out and out tricky player. And I think that's what we had in Leroy Sané, the kind of player that was very elegant on the ball and somebody that was very tricky and could do something from nothing. Obviously, Sterling is very good, very quick, very pacey, but he's a bit more simplistic in that way. Doesn't necessarily get too caught up in the step overs and the tricks and that kind of stuff. Since Robinho, I'd probably go as far back as, we've not really had a player that really offers that really silky, flary kind of stuff. Do you think that's something that we've missed and something that would draw a lot more free kicks and scoring opportunities?
Having that, as you say, basically the low centre of gravity, it brings other challenges. And this is why Jack Grealish is one of the most fouled players in the division. Then he's got the ability and the trickery-wise. Totally agree that Robinho, we haven't had anyone from Robinho with the natural flair ability, just to go and change a game basically by pure skill on his own. And to be honest, it would be nice to have that, just more of a selfish point of view when I'm watching. You want a wee bit of just flair, a wee bit of excitement that can come out of nowhere.
No, indeed, yeah, it's something that excites me, and I can't lie. I do watch a lot of football. There's a lot of City fans that are that tribal, and that's not a criticism of them. I'm massively tribal to City. I'm sure you are too. But I do like watching other teams play, and I like watching players that I like watching play for their team. And the only reason why I'll watch Palace at times is to watch what Wilf does, or I'll watch Newcastle to see what Saint-Maximin does. And I enjoy watching them players, and they're exciting. And I often think, well, I'd love to see you in City Blue. And it's one of them, a lot of fans are saying, no, don't get them, they're not good enough. But how are you ever going to know a player's good enough unless you were to give them a chance?
Totally agree. Just slightly off topic, talking about Fleur, one of my favourite players of all time in the Premier League was JJ Okocha, just because he could do something special. No other reason whatsoever. And he was excellent. And, I love watching people with just pure raw talent and skill to be able to perform any trick at any time. It's magical. It's brilliant.
Unbelievable, isn't it? So we've got them 3 nailed down. You wouldn't have a problem with signing any of them 3. I'm sure there's many other players out there. There's players like Leon Bailey that play at Leverkusen. I don't know if you know about Leon Bailey.
Yeah.
There's loads of players in the world that have been linked with us. The chances of us getting Alphonso Davies from Bayern Munich aren't very realistic. But I'm sure Pep, Cheeky, Ferran, all the kinds of players they want to bring in. I'm sure Pep's got a short list drafted up. Whether he decides to bring another left winger in or give Braff his turn and his glory in the first team, that's there to be seen in the future. But if you weren't to bring in a direct replacement for Sane, would you spend the money on a centre-half? And if you were to sign a centre-half or 2, who would there be and why?
2, if you push me to 1, I'm sure it'd be very expensive. The Napoli centre-back, Koulibaly. I just think he's got everything: pace, power. I'm not saying he's as good as Van Dijk, because I wouldn't make that comparison, but the similar traits, similar abilities. We just need someone that was in a mould of Vinny, in his late 20s, and I think it would bring out the best in John Stones again as well. We've got 2 quite young centre backs there, in Stones and Laporte. Not a massive fan of Mendy, to be honest. He does different jobs. He's just very sound defense. We'll go and win headers all day for you, but as a ball playing centre back, I think there's a bit of concern there. So Koulibaly, and definitely I would go with Varane, but I'd be very surprised if Real Madrid would sell.
Now, we've been linked with Nathan Ake as well, James. A player that I do like. A
player that, hasn't it?
Yeah, well, exactly, yeah. A player that a lot of City fans would probably say, well, why would we sign him? He's playing at Bournemouth. They look like going down. Sometimes fans can be that fickle that they'll look at it as, well, he plays for them and that makes him poor. Well, not necessarily, no, because he might be a big fish in a small pond that, when thrown in a big pond, might swim.
Well, he's another very good player. You kind of, even me there, when you put me on a direct question, you put your blinkers on slightly and think of some of the best players in the world, where Nathan Ake's got immense potential to improve. And again, you can see the Pep effect, the Klopp effect, even at Liverpool, what good coaches do. They make good players even better, and they make average ones good. It's scary what they can do. And I think, 100% agree with me again. Nathan Ake's a good football playing centre back. He steps out of defence with it, moves into midfield. It's everything you want. And under the right guidance and the right coach, I believe he could be a fantastic player too. Just touching slightly on John Stones, I believe this is probably, if he stays fit, he needs a real big season for City. I think it's getting to a point where if it doesn't go well in one more year, Pep, or hopefully he stays longer than next season, Pep, but whoever even comes in might look at it and might be time for him to move on. But I like him, and I just think he needs an arm around his shoulder and told he's a good player and build his confidence and get him going.
And it's interesting, James, as well, that you point out the fact that John Stones' development might not necessarily be down to Pep and what Pep says to him with regards to an arm around the shoulder even. It might be that he needs that on the pitch. Pep can't go on the pitch and put an arm around the shoulder, but a Koulibaly might be able to, a bit like Company used to do. And I remember one of John Stones' best games for me in the last 2 years, in the last 2 seasons, was when he played in a back 3. And we actually did revert to playing a 3-5-2. And I think he played in between Vincent Kompany and Aymeric Laporte, and he looked absolutely fantastic in that game.
Yeah,
so maybe with the strength around him, you get the best John Stones, maybe.
Yeah, 100%. He's the pivot in the centre of 3, and there's no pressure on him to get dragged in the wide areas where Laporte could do that, and Kompany at the time could do it. I wasn't in a privileged position this season to get over to the Etihad due to what's going on, but last season I was over at Christmas time for the Liverpool and the Arsenal game.
Yeah.
I think was it against Liverpool? Laporte played left back and John Stones played in the centre back. Yeah. So first ability there with Laporte too, and it was one of John Stones' better games that I've seen him play in there as a footballing centre back as well.
Mm-hmm.
I believe he's a very good player, and we need to do more to get it out of him.
I watched Sky Sports News yesterday. There's a show on there at the moment called the Football Show that's on every day between I think it's 11 and 12 o'clock. Matthew Upson was on there. Obviously, we both remember Matthew Upson playing. Didn't turn over any stones at top clubs, but was always a very, very, very good centre half at West Ham. I remember him being at Arsenal as well in his younger years, and he did some really good analysis on us and how far we are behind Liverpool. And he actually said, and I agree, and I was really surprised that somebody had actually not gone along the Liverpool agenda and actually stuck up for us. And he said, City aren't far away at all. With a few defensive recruits and maybe another striker, they're not that far away at all. I don't necessarily think we're even far away from Liverpool. I think the margin of the points this season is down to injuries and other things. But in terms of the football we play, with one or two improvements in our squad, that's all it needs. And he was to say that, we would not be too far away from Liverpool next year, and it could be a runaway steam train for us, and they could be the ones chasing us.
Yeah, I concur with everything you're saying, to be honest. I think the big issue with us was, Pep's first season didn't really go well. We were trying to bed in different styles of play, his philosophies on the game, and what the blueprint of what our team he wanted us to be. Then we were so successful for 2 seasons, dominating. Some pundits saying it's the best Premier League team they've ever seen, and their opinions drastically changed this season. They're going with Liverpool, but I believe to have continued success on all fronts in every competition for 3 years it's a huge ask. And for Liverpool to go again next year, it will be massive, because whenever we won the league 2 years ago, Liverpool 1 point behind. Any other year they would have won it. So they have been a good team for 2 years, but people are forgetting we were a hell of a team for the previous 2 and this year. We're still in the FA Cup, potentially still Champions League, and a second place finish. So bite your hands off for that at the beginning of the season every year. So no, I'm not having any of our supporters or anyone out there at all saying we're having a poor season. It's far from it. Fair enough. The league we've lost hands down, but we're still doing okay.
If that's the case, James, which I agree with you completely on, then say that Koulibaly was the only signing to come in this summer, and then we were to walk the league next year or absolutely blast the league to pieces and Liverpool were chasing us. Would we then attribute the fact that we've now become the best team in England down to the one signing of Koulibaly? That's how daft it sounds when people say that one signing would make us the best team in the league again. Surely that wouldn't be the only reason why, and it would be that player, with everything that we've done in the years previous, was the reason why we become the best team in the league again. Surely it's not down to one player.
No, definitely not down to one player. We had the same issue with Kevin De Bruyne, if you remember, when he got his long-term injury. Trying to say, but we're a one-man team again. You take Kevin out of City, we're not the same team. Had the same when Vinny was at the top of his game. You take Vinny out, we're not the same team. There's no way. It's a collective game. It's not down to one individual talent. Of course, they're quality footballers, and when they're fit, it's a big help. But no way, not one man. We've more than enough talent there to cope without them for a period of time.
Indeed, James. Right. Well, before we tie up tonight, then, James, I think let's have a bit more fun and throw a bit of banter out at those wonderful pundits on Sky Sports that did decide. And I'm not being awful. I'm not being rude or obnoxious. But the ones that have rubbed us City fans up the wrong way over the years, talking about Kevin De Bruyne, and I looked back yesterday at Merson's column 10 years ago on Yaya Toure, and I couldn't help but chuckle at some of the bile that was coming out on the TV and obviously in the column as well. Yaya Toure, not good enough, an average player, I think he was described as, and somebody that doesn't score goals, somebody that doesn't provide assists, and somebody that just chips in the odd time. 10 years later, completely different view, I'm guessing.
Wow. Absolutely incredible. To be totally honest, what I would say is when we signed Yaya Toure from Barcelona, I liked him as a player. Thought he was, predominantly a defensive midfield player. Not for 1 minute that I think Roberto Mancini was going to play him as an attacking midfielder. And the rest is absolute history, isn't it? He scored goals. Wow, vividly recall his bursting runs from midfield. He looks like he's hardly moving on television and when you're at the game, but no one can stop him. So powerful, goal scorer, creative, free kick specialist. So, he was magic, absolute magic.
Well, there was a guy on Twitter yesterday, James, that actually said that part of the reason why Mercer might have made them comments 10 years ago was because he wasn't the player that he was for us at Barcelona. Now, I 100% can see where he's getting at, or shall I say, let me reword that, can see where he's coming from with that point. But at the same time, Yaya Toure wasn't a poor player when we signed him, and I'd seen him do similar stuff to what he'd done for us from a holding position at Barcelona. So, yes, all right, he wasn't doing, he wasn't scoring 20 goals and providing however many assists he provided in 13-14 for Barcelona every year, but he was a fantastic player. And had he not have been, why would we have signed him?
Exactly. I recall Pep playing him as a centre-back as well. And I think it was actually a Champions League final, if I remember rightly. He dropped back in there. He could play there.
It was against United, I think.
Yeah. Holding midfield, centre attacking midfield. His versatility is there to speak for itself, and so was his ability. To be honest, Harlan, I don't have enough superlatives to talk about Yaya. He was incredible.
Unbelievable. I think, I say unbelievable. You say incredible. I think between us, we'll have to come up with a word for him. But yeah, stratospheric, I'd say, in terms of what he gave us for all them years. Moving on to the Kevin ones then. Something that comes out every year and gets mentioned various times throughout the year. 50 million for this boy. Are you joking? You can't be paying 50 million for him. He was a Chelsea flop, this, that, and the other. How daft are them comments look now?
Yeah, definitely. We spoke about that yesterday as well. And to be honest, we were kind of putting a fee on Jack Grealish. And I had kind of made a comment that 50 million is the going rate at the minute for any player. So whenever he was coming, obviously I'd known about him playing for Chelsea and what he was doing at Wolfsburg. But I wasn't expecting the Kevin De Bruyne that we're seeing now, to be totally honest. Didn't really say too much whenever he was coming. Delighted that he was coming because his stats spoke for itself. Didn't watch much German football at the time, to be honest with you. But yeah, he's blown me away. He absolutely blown me away. I remember my first game at the City of Manchester Stadium was around 2005 season. I was actually over. I watched City Liverpool, and to be honest, I couldn't take my eyes off Steven Gerrard for about 30 minutes. And Kevin De Bruyne, I wouldn't say is, on that level yet, because you have to do it for a few more years. But the point I'm making is no one's got my attention as much from that. The bursting runs into the box, the long distance shots. He's another player. He's just a box-to-box midfielder that has everything you want in a player.
Well, James, we don't really like praising Liverpool players and anything to do with Liverpool. But Gerrard is a player that I can't lie. I grew up watching, admiring. That goal in the FA Cup final in 2006 against West Ham. Not many players can smack a ball like that with that much accuracy and power so late on in a game and then go on to win an FA Cup in a penalty shootout. And, like you say, you look at Gerrard and what a player he was. And I think that, as City fans, sometimes we like to throw a bit of mud at the fact that he slipped, and we like to throw a bit of mud at the fact that, he made many mistakes in his career at crucial times. And not only that, you got to look at the fact that, Gerrard didn't win a title at Liverpool, but do titles always make you not worthy of being classed as one of the best players in the country or the world? Or, can you still be one of the best without winning a title?
Definitely, 100%. I think it's a wee bit, hopefully in the same mold as, Phil Foden. But, Phil's obviously won trophies, but once you're playing for the team that you've grown up and brought up to support, it's hard to leave. It is, and as you say, it was the only trophy that he didn't win. But no, not for me. I think it's it's irrelevant if you win major honours. Of course, you want to, but it definitely doesn't have much in the way of saying that he was still a very, very good player.
And if Kevin can, like you say, I mean, he's wonderful now. You'd probably say at certain things he's better than Gerrard, but right now he's not quite at that sustained level of consistent performances season on season, regardless of how many trophies or titles he's won. But do you think that if Kevin gets to Gerrard's level, he's had an amazing career? Because I do.
Yeah, definitely. And to be honest, I think he's there. He's at that level. It's just what I was saying was Gerrard done it over a longer period in the Premier League.
Yeah.
Kevin's only been in us a short period, a good load of years, so he can only perform for the length of time he's here. But he's absolutely incredible. He's the first name on the team sheet every week, and I don't think there's a team in the world he wouldn't get into, and he would dominate the game no matter where he is.
Now, one more thing before we finish, James, is that, we're often spoken about as a boring possession-based side by some pundits that don't like the way we play football. And, Pep's style is somewhat misinterpreted and there's a misconception there is what I'm trying to say with how we play, and the fact that because Liverpool play a bit more direct and it's a bit quicker and a lot quicker at times, and the front three are massively important in their quick build-up in the final third, that their style is better than ours. And I suppose it's down to preference, really, but it often gets described, and did the other day against Newcastle, as tiki-taka football. And Pep's rubbish that and said, it's not tiki-taka football that I play. Don't label my football with the words tiki-taka, because that is a completely different way of playing. It's nonsense. We play possession with a meaning. Every pass has a meaning. There's a strategic plan. The aim is to overload on one side and, unstabilize the opposition and then hit them where it hurts. Do you think that it's just an easy thing to go to sometimes to call it tiki-taka and label it with that, rather than actually analysing what style we play and actually appreciating it as it deserves to be?
Yeah, I totally agree. I hear the same stuff all the time, talking to friends in general, just about football. That say City's boring to watch. All we do is keep the ball and don't probe forward. Completely disagree with them on that front. But to be honest, I take their criticism as a complete compliment, that we can keep the ball, we can retain it for as much as we can, and move into any areas. It's fantastic. Newcastle the other evening, David Silva was found in the pocket, in the hole between the midfield and defence. Ball was getting, probed forward, direct as well. So when the time is right, we do retain possession, but when the time's right, we play forward all the time.
And, them comments, I suppose it's easy to throw tiki-taka out, and it's easy to say it might be a tedious style of play. You hear pundits, commentators, many people in studios talking about it and comparing it to Liverpool's and saying that theirs is a better style because it's a lot quicker and maybe a bit more direct. But I often see ours as a 2-in-1. We can do that if we want to. We could become more direct at any time if Pep tells the players to do that. I often see it as two styles in one. I always see it as the mini counter as well. We've got the opportunity to mini counter. So if we win the ball back in that 6 seconds that Pep always talks about, we hit the opposition wherever we are on the pitch. We mini counter attack them. So if we win it outside the box, we counter into the box. If we win it on the edge of our own box, we'll counter there. If we win it on the halfway line, we'll counter there. But there's always a purpose. And I'm not saying every pass is strategically planned before the match. It's open to improvisation by the players. Otherwise, there'd be 11 Peps on the pitch at any one time. But Pep at Barca did say, and Henry's actually alluded to this on Sky Sports many times when asked, that he will get you up to the final third, and then whatever you do in the final third is up to the magic of the players. And I think that that is something that gets, it gets forgotten about and brushed over a lot. And they often try to focus on the fact that it's tedious and boring, when really, if you actually look at it, it's a beautiful style.
Yeah, definitely. I recall that analysis of Thierry Henry that you're talking about, and he used to call it the horseshoe, where whenever we were keeping the ball as much as we can, and we kind of made a shoe around the opponents to box them in. So if they won to regain possession, we would win it back as soon as we could. But the styles that you're saying, the 2-in-1, Ederson epitomises that, because we will pass it about, we'll play it from the back, we'll suck you in, and Ederson goes long. The amount of times I've seen him go long, Sergio bring it down, Sterling bring the ball down, and we're on the counter attack in the final third from our own 18-yard box. It's scary, and it's there. It's there to be seen that we can play direct when we need to. It's just we prefer to wait for the openings before hitting teams on the counter, so to speak.
Indeed, and to cement them two things together, the comments about Yaya, De Bruyne, and other players, and this. To sum that up in one, sometimes it might be due to the fact that the people that are talking about it and the people that are doing the analysis, or say they're doing the analysis, haven't actually done that analysis themselves. They've been given that analysis to put across and really haven't taken the time to actually research it themselves, understand it themselves, and get to really know these players before they make the comments on them. Because it's better sometimes to do the analysis and research before you say anything about someone. Because I, for one, wouldn't like to be bitten on the backside by it. I'm sure you wouldn't either.
No, definitely not. When you come on, when you're gonna speak about someone or anyone, it's fine giving your opinion on a player, because that's all it is. You're going to be right or you're going to be proved wrong. But when you're coming on to talk about, someone in general, the likes of Kevin De Bruyne, his stats, they're all there to speak for themselves. It's in black and white how good players De Bruyne and David Silva have been, and Fernandinho. So when you come on to talk about those guys, you have to know what you're going to say. You can't criticise any of them. It will go back slightly just to even touch on Gerrard, as much as you don't want to comment on how good another team's player is, especially Liverpool. You can't take it away from the fact that they're quality football players.
And it does come back to the disrespect, in a sense, of Pep's style.
Yeah.
The fact that if you don't do proper analysis on his style and get to really know what he plays like and what he aims to play like and wants to get us playing like, and you just literally label it with tiki-taka, boring style, not as good as Liverpool's, have you really done your analysis in depth enough to actually appreciate what we're actually trying to do and how we're trying to shape English football? The team nearest to me, Bolton Wanderers, today have actually confirmed Ian Evatt as their new manager, the Barrow manager, and he's modelled his way of playing on Pep. Now, yes, granted, Pep gets criticised a lot. You won't be able to do it if he was in League One, and he wouldn't be able to play that style in the National League. Well, Evatt's adopted that style, and he's signed football players. Granted, not Kevin De Bruyne, not David Silva, not Sergio Aguero, but he's signed the non-league version of them players that are now capable of playing in League Two. And he's got them playing football. So it does prove that lower down the leagues, you could do that. And Ian Evatt's been confirmed as Bolton's manager. And I was talking the other day on our radio show and actually uploaded a clip earlier on to the Bolton FM Sport page, talking about what to expect from Ian Evatt. And I was just basically telling them how, for some City fans, it wasn't easy to accept the change in philosophy and style after watching us under Stuart Pearce over the years and managers previous to that. And some fans still want it quick, direct, into the box. So I can understand why a lot of pundits sometimes want the same. But at the same time, it's time to appreciate that this style of football is shaping English football, and managers like Ian Evatt are trying to do it at clubs like Barrow, and I'm sure he'll try and do it at Bolton now going forward.
The game evolves. It's evolved from whenever I first started watching, even to where we are now, where, we had a wee slight debate on Joe Hart. The goalkeeper situation has changed football dramatically. Used to be, can you save a shot? Yes, you're good. Now, if you can't play with your feet, you can't play out, you're not good enough to play for any of the top sides. So, the game has evolved. And even, I didn't question Pep one bit when he came into City, but it took me a while to accept what we were trying to do because it was difficult to watch. We're making mistake after mistake. But until he gets his philosophies across to the players, you have to accept that it's going to, it's not always going to go our way and what we expect. But totally agree. It can happen lower down the leagues. There's decent football and teams in the Championship, League 1 and 2. It's just you sign a different calibre of player to suit that system you're playing, and it can work.
Indeed, James. So tonight, before we wrap up, we've summed up our views on Mendy, Cancelo and Walker, how we believe they could be made into better players, what would facilitate that. We spoke about Grealish, Saint-Maximin, Zaha, who we replace Sane with, the centre-halves that we'd maybe bring in if we had the chance, and if we were Pep, which is a wonderful thought, by the way. I'd love to be in his position. We spoke about comments on De Bruyne and Yaya over the years, the style of play, the fact that it doesn't get enough appreciation, and how people should be viewing this adaptation in football now and how it should be more appreciated. So it's been great to talk to you tonight, James, and we've expanded on what we've spoken about on Twitter. Keep tweeting. I'll keep tweeting too. Let's keep backing each other up, and hopefully we'll be able to influence other people in the future and hopefully clear a few things up. But yeah, cheers, pal. Thanks a lot for coming.
No worries.
And,
thank you, Hardy.
We can do it
See you
again.
later, mate.
Yeah. Got some great opinions, mate, and hopefully speak again soon.
You too. Cheers. Thank you.
Cheers.
Bye.
All right, mate. Bye now.